Welcome to Language from Nothing. I'm Justin Ryan, and you might be wondering, who the heck are you, anydangway?
Anydangway.
Well, I'm Justin Ryan. I just told you that. Actually, Ryan is not my last name, in case you were wondering, and some of my friends actually are also confused about this. They're like, well, Ryan's not your last name. And generally, people from the US are given at least 3 different names, so I'll let you figure that one out.
Anydangway.
Anyway, as I said, I'm from the US, and I like long walks on the beach.
No. That is not right at all.
Actually from the very center of the US, very heart, in a flat place called Nebraska. Yes, I have been outside of Nebraska. I know it's a shocker. But inside the US, I've been to both coasts and the Gulf of Mexico and a few places in between. Outside of the US, I've been to Brazil, the Philippines, Korea, and Australia. So I have a decent amount of travel experience. So anyway, why the language learning website? Well, I've always been fascinated with knowing another language. Just like Jason Bourne, you know, he could just rattle off like 10 different languages like it's nothing. But for me, it's always been the process of actually learning the language that I get stuck in. I actually have tried to learn several different languages, but it always seemed too much of a scattered, disorganized, messy task. And I am a scatterbrain, by the way, and that's a huge factor because just I'm all over the map. And I would always start all gung-ho and enthusiastic, but because I didn't have a good strategy to find relevant information, study, retain that information, and use that information, I would quickly feel lost and overwhelmed. So for the past several years, I've been just researching different language learning methods and strategies, and this blog is actually an experiment to test out a specific language learning strategy. My goal is to simplify the language learning process by using a simple approach. So what is this simple approach, you might ask? Something that I like to call interaction patterns. And I'll talk a little bit more about this in future videos, but basically it's taking pieces of the language from any study material that you might have and transforming them into a pattern that prompts you for a response using the new language. In other words, you're purposely creating an interaction between you and the language, and the idea is to gain the ability to make a reflex response in the new language. Well, what makes you the language learning expert, Justin Ryan? Nothing. At all. Nothing. But that's the point, and that's why it's called Language from Nothing. It's meant to document the process starting from nothing. I am not an expert, obviously, because I haven't learned another language, but I don't claim to be, so there you go. Okay, but is there anything that qualifies you for making a language learning blog? 4 factors come to mind. The main one is that I'm starting as a beginner. And even though I might know a little bit about the language already, I am approaching it from the seat of a beginner. It's meant to document the whole language learning process for better or for worse. Many of the language learning websites out there already are run by very smart, skillful people who already know a variety of different languages. But after reaching an advanced level, sometimes it's hard to remember what it's like to be a beginner. And so for me, I thought it would be a good idea, instead of learning the language first and then making videos about it, just document the process on the way. Starting as a beginner and working my way to an advanced level, I will be able to relate to the people who are going through the process as well. I'll be asking the same questions, I'll be facing the same challenges, and probably feeling the same frustrations. The second factor is that I do have a little bit of language learning experience. I took 4 years of French in high school, 1 year of Spanish in college. I lived in Brazil for 2 months and learned a little bit of Brazilian Portuguese. I've visited the Philippines several times. I've tried learning Tagalog, and I lived in Korea for 3 years where I tried learning Korean. But I don't speak any of these languages at all, like very little. Another factor is, because I'm a scatterbrain, I am constantly looking for any sort of language learning resource that might help me simplify the process. And I've listened to lectures, I've scoured the internet for videos, I've read books, and there's a lot of information out there. Some not so good, but some real gold nuggets. And I would take these gold nuggets of information and take mental notes and remember them. And that's how I'm piecing together this language learning strategy that I'm about to experiment with. Okay, so I have to make a disclaimer that the gold nuggets that I'm talking about are not from other people's online paid courses. I haven't paid for any courses online, and I know that there are some out there. So if my information overlaps with that information, it's completely by accident. I haven't bought any, so I can't plagiarize it. But if I accidentally do, let me know, and I can see what I can do to change it. The fourth factor that somewhat qualifies me for this language learning blog is that I do have a little bit of teaching experience. For 1 year, I taught part-time basic Spanish at a private school, and for 3 years, I lived in Korea and taught ESL to grade school Korean children. And while I'm not a certified teacher of any sort, I have gained a lot of experience growing my skills as a teacher. Is this site only for beginners? The answer to the question is no. The approach I'm taking can actually be applied to every stage of the process. There has been a slight misunderstanding among some people that I know that what I'm doing is for the very beginner. Now, I hope it's useful for the very beginner, but what I'm implementing is a strategy, not a grade level. So you can use the strategy for material as advanced as you want. The reason I'm starting from the beginning is to document the whole process and to show how easy it is for you to be able to start from nothing. Well, that's it. That's the gist of my approach. And while none of this is incredibly outstanding, at least it's decent groundwork for me to get started on doing a little bit of language learning. So let's go.